Hey, everybody. Welcome to Improv FAQ at Length. This is a series of longer conversations about improv topics that have lots of questions surrounding them. I'm James Quesada.
And I'm Bob Wick.
And we have our good friend joining us as a guest. It is Tiffany Baxi.
Yeah.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us, Tiffany.
Thank you guys for having me. I love listening to your guys' episodes, so it's kind of cool that I'm on here now.
Thank you. That's really nice of you to say. And yeah, we're really excited to have you as a guest because when Bob and I started doing these episodes in podcast form, we reached out to a group of people, improv friends of ours that we've had good shop talk conversation with for suggestions of topics and questions. And you were part of that group, and you presented a couple questions that we immediately were like, man, this is a great topic. And
Right.
Tiffany will make a great guest since when it was your question. And you've had you're how long into improvising now?
4 years, like next week.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the topic is going to be ego, and the way that you presented it in our survey was I think it was, how do you get rid of ego when performing, and then there was like a second question sort of related to it, which is like, when performing, how do you shut out the rest of the world or the room and just focus on your scene partner? I thought those were really great questions, and so let's just start with like, what did you have in mind in posing those? What sorts of experiences gave you that kind of question to ask?
So the ego one, I think I said something like, how do you remove ego from a scene, or I don't know, just performing in general?
Yeah.
Because I think ego can be its own character almost. And then like you kind of fall into that, and like the audience can see it, scene partners can see it, even if you don't realize you're doing it. I've fallen into it. I've seen other people fall into it. And in real life, I have an ego just like everyone else, but I think that I'm like humble and great. But then when I'm on stage, sometimes it comes out because I'm on a literal platform, and I'm like, all right, just be the character that this scene is calling for. Don't be anything else. And so that's why those two questions kind of went hand in hand to me. And it's really hard to be in the moment and be humble and like all of it together, because there's so many things that you need to be aware of when you're on stage, and that kind of tricks me up a little bit. So more I was asking for like myself, but also because you guys have been doing it for so long, you have dealt with so many other scene partners, and people that you've performed with a bunch and people that you have performed with for the first time, that like, do you have a rhyme or reason? Like every time you go up on stage to kind of like turn that part of your brain off, or how to work around people that have not been able to turn that off?
Yeah, great.
This is great questions.
Totally, yeah. And I'll share some of my experience too, because I think you're right. And when we've mentioned in other conversations that like ego is one of the biggest hurdles to get over, and it's something that we all struggle with to different degrees throughout the improv career. And for me, like I definitely remember, and I think you can relate to this, Tiffany, is that like and Bob, I think the three of us are all the types of personalities that well, like when we discovered improv, very excited to get involved and eager to get opportunities. And I remember like my experience being that like, you know, when I would get a big opportunity, what seemed relatively big in my world of improv, that's when like the ego would kick in for me, and that's like relative now too, is that like if I get an opportunity at diff or a special event or a paid performing opportunity that has stakes to it, that's where like ego comes into play for me. And like early on, you know, anything from like getting cast on your team for the first time and being like, oh man, now I have like something to prove. And even though that's not like what's driving me consciously, there is like that part for everyone that is somewhere in the mix, is like, now I have to like kind of like show my worth or prove that I'm worth this opportunity. You know what I mean? And that ego of like, can really create conflict with just being able to play versus like being able to prove that you can play. You know what I mean? That's how I think of it for sure.
Yeah,
I relate to that 100%. Yeah. So it's reassuring, honestly, that you've been doing it for like 15 years now or something crazy.
10.
So thank you. 10. Okay. Bob's been doing it for like 45 or something.
Yeah. So old. I am.
Yeah, look at that beard.
Oh my God, it's all gray.
Yeah, this could be 10 years.
All
That one's
salt, no
45
pepper.
years.
Oh man. This beard's been doing improv longer than both of you. No, but like when I think of ego, I think of like there's the two versions, like what you just described, like almost faking it till you make it. Like just it's coming from like a protect yourself. Like I'm on stage, I'm very vulnerable. Like I want to heighten my personality just so I can be a little bit bigger in this room. And then there is that ego where it's like a false sense of entitlement type ego, and I find that harder to play with because that's someone who wants to be in control all the time. You know, like they're not protecting themselves. They I got this. So just get out of my way rather than I just want to be secure when I play. I mean, and both have their downfalls and can be disruptive during a long form scene. But I think the latter it's a lot rougher to play with. And unfortunately, with this thing like improv, we do get people who have that. That's we're connected to drama. We're gonna play with dramatic people. So
I've fallen into that too, and it's like real shitty because. I mean, I hope that I've learned from it, but there are times where I'm like, no, my idea is better, and it's like, that's a literal thing that you learn to not do in improv, right? Like, that's so not supportive. I'm like, no, I know my thing is better. And then I see it unravel, and I'm like, oh, they all just work so well as a team. Even if I'm just with 3 other people, or 2 other people, I'm like, oh, man, okay, that's improv. So I've been on both sides of that where I'm just like, okay, I'm letting things happen and I do my parts and they're doing their parts and it's great and it's all like whatever. And then I realize like, okay, that's good. And then there are those days where I'm just like, well, I'm on stage too. Like, hear what I have to say, and I'm like, wait, how did I get to that? Because I'm not as experienced. Of course, I don't want to be that person, but it is more of what you were saying, Bob, that you're going to encounter those people regardless of how you act. Right. So, what are your magic tricks to like make sure that you can still have fun while they're also having fun, regardless of who's saying more or, like the actual outcome of just like, are people going to walk out of that being like, that was the best show I've ever seen, because there's a lot of things that like are in people's heads, like when they're performing and.
I mean, as a self-defense move, if I'm playing with somebody who always has to have high status or, there's someone, because honestly, this is supposed to be fun, right? And we're all playing and, we all have our day. Tiffany, I wish I can tell you that it's going to get easier and you'll never play with ego again. But I've been doing this for 150 years and I still have those days. It's unavoidable. It's part of your human nature. It's part of your personality. It's buried somewhere and sometimes it pops up. Not a big deal. But some people, that's all you get when you play with them, and they're just not fun to play with, and it's too much work. So as a self-defense move, I say play as vulnerable as possible and play with as much emotion and without. I mean, and the move isn't to try to steal a scene. Is it's heightening what they're presenting to the best of your ability, like taking care of them, even though they're not playing fair, you play better. And honestly, you'll steal the scene almost 100% of the time. Like you can let them lead, but if you are following with enthusiasm and just letting it hit, like you're going to get noticed,
I like that.
Yeah. I vulnerability and Bob, you've also advised playing low status and just like, I mean, for if that's the type of ego is like the high status kind of control thing that in your scene partner, then yeah, playing low status is a good exercise, and it also helps keep your ego at bay. Like a willingness to do that is like, that's actually exercising good ego management skills right there for yourself. I also in general just like to operate from the place of believing that everyone's doing things with the best of intentions, with a desire to have fun, have a good show, and that gives me a good amount of patience. And you know, I think that like patience is also from a place of like empathy, like having this kind of conversation where like 3 different experience levels and paths are like all saying the same thing about like ego coming into play, and there's understanding that type of thing is a part of everybody's experience. Gives me personally, I'm like, that gives me a lot more patience for when I feel like I'm up against that, because I know that I've been on the other side of it, and I'm like, somebody else was patient with me, I'm going to be patient with them.
Oh yeah, pay it forward. Let me ask you this, both of you, have you ever been in the middle of a set and like, oh man, I'm bulldozing, I'm not being like a teammate right now, I'm being a superstar in my own world, and if so, was there something you did to kind of balance the rest of the set out, or your performance out?
Honestly, a lot of times when I'm on stage, I black out completely. I don't know what happens until someone else will be like, oh, well, that was great when you did this. I'm like, I did that,
I absolutely love that.
I don't remember like anything when I'm on there. Just recently in one of my troop group chats, someone was like, oh, people talk about your favorite memories. And I'm like, yeah, that one was fun. I don't remember.
Right.
But in class or rehearsals, I remember a little bit more. And I would cop out and just have my character fall and die.
You're killing your own ego. I like that. Oh, what a great metaphor.
One time I did do that at a class show. My teacher, Scotty, did not even notice. There were so many people on stage and it wasn't supposed to be a group scene. And I was like, no, my thing is good. It's going to be funny. I have a character, blah, blah. But these characters came out first and kind of like established themselves. And I'm on there and I just fall over and die. And it was, was my way out. It was like, I don't know, intro 3.
You just go like, ah.
Well, we were at a party and we were drinking and I choked on my drink silently and died. So then I realized that could work, and I've done that a few times in rehearsals. It's not good. I'm not saying I
must have been some kind of party if that wasn't the focal point.
It ended up, from what I remember, something about, only because other people have brought it up again, about like swingers. And so I wouldn't have been part of that anyway. I didn't establish it. I wasn't part of a duo. So I'm like, oh, it's a good thing I was not in that scene at all. But yeah, again, like I don't have good advice on that. So that's why I'm talking to you guys about it, because that's a really good question, Bob. Because I've just been like, I don't know what I'm doing and find a way to like walk out, because I don't know how to get it back together once I've lost it. That's just something about me in real life too, that I just need to find a way to like recoup myself.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly, I'm with you, Tiffany, because I'm like, I think I'm in awe of people that can play without ego, or like, I really find myself drawn to people that can diffuse ego in me. Like a sense of composure and dignity and control is like kind of where my ego is. And I will sometimes challenge myself to step out of that with different goals and whatever. But like, there's some people that seem to have a much better handle on it, or can let go more easily, and I like to surround myself with those people. But I, to answer your question, Bob, I can't say that I have noticed that's what I was doing in the middle of a set and stopped. I can definitely say that I've gotten off stage and been like, I think I might have been playing a little hot there. and the way
yeah. Oh no, I'm sorry. Go.
Well, just then it's like I spend time in between shows and just considering it, and again, try not to come at it from a place of like beating myself about like how I should have done things differently, but like just how I could have done things differently, or like recognizing kind of identifying that mode that I was in so that I can recognize it more easily if it happens again. Is more how that goes. Have you, Bob, been like, oh, I'm kind of pushing, and then slow down during a set?
Like the first 30 years of improv, especially like when I started doing showdowns, because like it's a competition, so that it brings out like a more competitive side of me, I guess, and I think there is some room to play with ego. Like if like you just said, like if someone's playing hot, or like you were playing hot. And if we're playing as a group and someone just has, if we're playing like a sport or something, I'm going to go for a sport metaphor. Just bear with me here. If we're playing basketball and someone's shooting threes all day, I'm passing them the ball. That landed. All right, cool. Yeah. Nailed it. Yeah. Yeah. NFL. What? Anyways, but yeah, and I don't think that's playing with ego if you're hot. Like sometimes you have to step up. We talk about, you got to make bold choices and be bold and, step out of your comfort zone. And sometimes that's what it looks like. So, I mean, I guess you have to know the difference when you're in control of it and when it's just something that it's coming from an insecure place, I guess.
I like that you mentioned short form, because when I asked the question, like originally I was thinking of long form because I'd been doing so much of it. And it was like, coming out of Moon Monster that I was in for like a year and then kind of like wasn't doing shows at all. So like that was just in my brain, right? But short form, I think I do see it a lot more because people have like a shorter time to get their point across, to get that joke out, to get that laugh. And so now that I think about it, yeah, I feel like I see that and have felt that more in short form, being on stage and being like, shit, I'm not quick enough, or if I notice that I'm doing something good, keep doing it and like driving it home until people are sick of it, and I'm like, that's not a good way to do it either. Like I should find that balance of this is working, let that happen, but also let other people do their thing too, because we're all on stage. So I think in short form, in the beginning, that was a lot of what I was doing, but I was also a very new improviser, because when you learn short form, you have like not really done anything.
Right.
At least that was my case. I did like one play that, our temple watched. Like I didn't, you know what I mean? Like I didn't do any of that. So I was learning everything all at once. But yeah, so it's interesting that you brought up short form, because I kind of forgot about short form.
I think that's the last thing you learn as improviser, like patience. We don't really discuss that too much during class. And I think that's something you just have to develop with stage time. And when you're in classes, you get like one show every 2 months, every 9 weeks. Like that's no way to develop patience, because you're waiting so long just to get on there, and you get 20 minutes with 20 other people who all are impatient as well. So it's like being a child in a 20 kid family and there's only one turkey. Like you just got to fight for your leg.
I think you need to stop with the analogies. They're not.
No. Oh, now they're on.
Short form to me, maybe what's interesting is how, at least in my mind, it's almost like ego. It's like kind of baked into short form to like kind of personify, not personify ego, but like have like a stage presence or like a stage character version of yourself. At least in things like the Showdown, where it's that like Who's Line game show thing, is that like there's the you that is a performer that isn't always doing characters, and part of the device of short form in like line games is to deliver with that like sell it like an expert kind of thing. Right. And so having a little amplified confidence is kind of like baked into short form in my mind. And so I think that like, I can't say that it's come up for me in the same way in short form, because it's maybe there's something freeing about being like, oh, I'm supposed to act kind of confident. And then, so that's the way I'm presenting myself. Whereas like, if I don't have that in like long form, or like in other settings too, just in general, it's like I'm trying to act like too relaxed or too confident, or I'm trying to like compensate for how I'm feeling when I know before I get on stage that like, they're like, oh, this is important. And then I will either like be like, okay, well, I'm gonna lean into that and just like play impulsively, or I'll be like, okay, dial it back, like follow every third impulse, like, and so it's a little bit more of a internal battle, I guess, when it's in the long form context, as opposed to like, I don't know, you know what I mean?
No, absolutely. Like, there's been times during short form that I would give myself rules. Like, if we're playing a line game and I just got a bunch. I can go out there, boom, 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 boom. And I notice you can't go twice in a row. You can't, you can't go until Scotty goes. Why not? I don't know. Just because, just do that. Just for a pacing thing.
Yeah. Watch your balance inside of the cast context. Yeah.
Especially if we're doing like with the showdown, you're playing 3-on-3, so make sure the other team gets a chance. It's remind myself it's not a real competition. Not a real competition. This is not a sport. Stop. But with long form, a mantra, I guess for lack of a better term, I came up with: if it's a good idea, it can wait. So like, whenever like just like every other advanced 2 student, when I learned about walk-ons, I just, man, soon as someone's like, wait till dad gets home, boom, here's Bob Wick, like, I'm the dad character now, like, or if I had an idea that I thought was going to heighten the scene, like, sometimes it's time sensitive but usually those kind of things are like more punchline-ish than something that will actually help the scene. So if it's good, you can give it a couple beats and walk on, and then it'd be almost more of a surprise.
I like that. And I think that learning short form first actually gave me the confidence, because like you were saying, James, you kind of had to have an ego to play like challenge or like any type of line game. And so it helped me get out there more and be confident, even if it's the stupidest thing I've ever said. Just making sure I got out there and said it as if it was like the best thing I said, right? And like that's kind of what you're like taught, just like do it. So that helped me. But then I was not good at that transition from short form to long form, because then I was like, ooh, every idea I have is good. I gotta, like you said, Bob, like I have to do the walk-ons. I have to like, get my character out there. Like every scene needs me in it. And like whether or not I always went out there, because I think, do you guys know Doug? He would probably be like, you didn't get out enough until like Advanced 4. But I would always like want to. And you can see me in the back just being like, oh, got to get out there because I'm going to make everything better. And that's not good either. People can still see you, right? And that's still kind of ego without actually being on stage.
Yeah.
And instead of beating myself up about it, I kind of started to get a little, okay, well, if I have an idea and I want to go out, just go out. If I don't force it. Like that was a really hard thing for me to, not saying I mastered it, but it was a really hard thing for me to kind of get control over.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the things that I think is really valuable in long form that we don't use a lot in the Detroit improv scene is group games and group work.
Yeah.
I think that is a really, even just like because things like Make a Machine and like group exercises, give and take walks, space walks, and stuff like that, which you do early on. And I would think regardless of whether you're doing short form or long form in a program, those are early on. But like once you get into like the intermediate to advanced levels, those get like less and less. And I think that they should really stick around more because they have a lot to do with ego death as much as they have to do with whatever the exercise is aiming at beyond that. a willingness to just kind of like commit to imagination, have fun with something that like feels stupid, like, and to power through it. Yeah. Okay, yeah, we're walking through Jell-O.
Oh yeah.
But like organic group games and Herald kind of stuff, those more abstract long form elements, I think can really be a nice tool for like group mind by way of ego death. That's something that I think is a good tool for maybe groups that are looking to kind of like challenge or explore this question of like ego and balance and ensembles. Like kill everyone's ego by making sure that everyone's able to do group games and group work.
So you saying ego death reminded me of almost a litmus test I do if I have a class that's not gelling so well. Actually, I think it's an exercise you taught me where you do make a machine and then you do the character where you build a character out of multiple people and then you have the battle scene.
Yeah.
Well, so you lay down the rules like, okay, everybody in this room is about to do a battle scene and we're going to do it in slow motion so it's safe and, but at the end of this, everybody's dead. And you watch the person who just goes and kills everybody like, oh, well, you could have wounded them. Like, this is not a race to see. Like,
yeah. The person is moving a little bit faster than everyone else when it's supposed to be in slow motion.
Or they get stabbed, but they can still move. Like,
yeah. Pulls out the ankle knife. Like, no, just die.
Will only die if he's killing the person who's killing him. Like,
yeah.
Come on, guy.
Yes, yeah.
And then like I'll stop and like, why was that so fast? Like, were you having fun? Yes. Okay. Well then let's do it again. Let's reset this battle scene. Take your time. Let's see some limbs lost. Let's go. Let's get into it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I love those kind of exercises. Tiffany, so is it mostly in context of improv that this question comes up, or does it also come up in sketch, scripted theater, writing, other areas?
So I've dabbled in like everything. The most I've done is improv. I'm going on 4 years. But yeah, I've done a little, like even just workshops with sketch or collaborating on writing a sketch or being in it. A little bit of acting, like a few plays and stuff here and there. And I think that it kind of goes into all of it. I mean, I guess like the stereotype is like you can't be an actor unless you have like a big ego, right? But there are a lot of people that don't, and there are a lot of very successful people that don't. And so, yeah, I think it can go into like all those different avenues. So I know both of you have done like a bunch of stuff too. That's not just improv, but it's still performing. And do you feel like it's more in improv, less in improv? More unscripted things because maybe people have just had more experience in it. I don't know. What are your thoughts on if there is some type of performance that allows more ego or just calls for it more?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because and maybe so let me kind of like frame it this way too. Let's not forget to get back to your more direct question, Tiffany, but like let's talk about what we really mean when we say ego, because I feel like sometimes people associate it with more what you were talking about, the one example, Bob, of somebody who thinks very highly of themselves or thinks that they're hot shit. And there's a little bit of that in a lot of our examples that we gave in in our improv examples. But I think also ego has to do with just like protecting. You could think not highly of yourself and have a lot of ego issues too. Is that like you need a lot of reassurance? You know what I mean? Is also an ego thing. So I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts on what the like ego spectrum is between like having a fragile ego? Is that still having a big ego? You know what I mean?
It can be big and fragile. It can be just a big old egg. Yeah. And I mean, like, and if it goes, I mean, if we're talking about it's a range or a spectrum, then yeah, too much either way is distracting for especially if we're talking about if we're doing a sketch show. If somebody on the ensemble is, having tantrums and stuff like that, it's hard to get a cohesive thing going. So it can be very distracted. And to answer the second part of your question, like, do I see more of it in one place or another? I think it really depends on the performer and where their fear is. Because I know some performers who are great actors and they're very comfortable and are very relaxed when they have a script in front of them. But when they do, long form or short form, they get scared. And I know people are the opposite way. So I think it really depends on, the person.
Yeah, because I guess the reason I bring it up is because I think in the acting world and writing, I think acting and writing, there's more ego in the sense of like people needing reassurance or being and not because I don't know, it's just two different kinds of ego. Like do you have a particular side of that in mind, Tiffany? Like the kind of ego that's like confident and wants to show how great you think you are versus like the kind that's like, am I good enough and needs like coddling? Like, are those the same or different to you?
Yeah, no, I didn't even think of the other side, honestly. The more fragile side of it, wanting validation at all times. That is definitely part of ego. And I didn't think of that when I asked the question. I was thinking specifically of like in improv when someone just wants to steal the show, and then you all have to just remember, like, it's improv. No one knows where this is going, right? You all have to kind of bring it back down, just be like, we're all just kind of doing this together. No one knows what they're doing. We all have like little talents, like some person's like really good on like, the quick walk-ons and whatever, because they bring something back that's like, like a callback walk-on kind of thing. Like some people just shine in those and that's like really awesome. So you kind of let them have that. Some people are really good at this and whatever, but when you come together, you could have like a group of 12 amazing improvisers that have done it and had killer shows and then also bomb. So it's like it's really interesting how ego can still play into that, even though that like at any moment, like it could just really suck where the audience is not on your side. And then you become that fragile side of it where you're like, you need to compensate. And you're like, no, I need to have them like me. I'm on stage for a reason and they need to see that this could be their first ever improv show. So it can go from like the high ego to the low ego. And I guess I didn't think of
I don't know. I guess it only just dawned on me because again, that when you asked that question about where do you see more ego, that's, I guess to me, that's the type of ego that I see more. I don't see a lot of, or I should say as much of the like overconfident, think I'm hot shit in the acting world. It's more like the,
I mean, I've known a few of those, so
for sure, yeah.
And there's another version of that, not that, but the insecure one where they're counting their lines or like, they casted me in this, like if it's like a review or something where it's not like a through line where it's just multiple scenes in one show. Like, I was get stuck playing, the stepdad or, or the bigger character, or the smaller characters and never get to do that. Like the person who's keeping score because they think they deserve more, or I don't know, they want more. That's a little frustrating sometimes. Because I don't think anybody who's casting or anything really puts that much thought into like, I'm going to get this guy and put him in my show,
Yeah. Yeah. I will say that whatever, no matter which place it exists more in, there's more in improv. There's more, I guess, kind of like medicine for it. Like it's kind of part of the reason that I fell in love with improv when I found acting first. I might be stealing this from somebody from like a long time ago, but the idea is that like the world of acting is still competitive, even though it's like about ensemble. You're still auditioning for one role. There's one lead more often than not, whereas in improv, ego or not, we all have to work together. So like, it's something that I think people tend to be a little bit more conscious of and like self-reflective about in the improv world, as opposed to other mediums. I would say that's what I think is special and attractive about improv, is that it's unavoidable, but like we can have a better conversation about it in improv and work to grow, into a better, healthier place about it in improv.
And along that, like to go with that, when you're acting, if you're in a play, if you're in a movie, if you're in a short film, anything like that, you're like rehearsing, you record, and then it's done. You might never have to see these people again. But you don't do improv just to have one show and then never do it again. So I guess that kind of goes into it too, where you want to be better and you want to have a good ensemble together. So
Absolutely.
You won't do anything to jeopardize that, so.
Absolutely. Yeah. You're in it for the long haul. And at any point that someone could shuffle the deck and be like, you and you, let's do a show.
Yeah. I mean, how many of those troops have you seen or been a part of where it's, when it's us four, we're called this. But sometimes we lose that person, we gain a person, and now we're this.
Yeah.
Not that they're doing it to punish or anything. Just sometimes that's the way it happens.
Yeah. Well, so let's kind of touch on the second part of the very initial questions. We talked a lot about ego and just how to like deal with it on a personal level, and a little bit about dealing with it with other people when on stage with you when you're playing. But there was also the part of the question that you asked, Tiffany, which was how do you block out everything else and just focus on your scene partner? Are there things that have worked better or worse for you inside of that question of being able to like forget the audience or stay real focused on the people you're playing with?
I think when there's more people in the audience, I don't focus on them, which is very interesting because I haven't had so many shows where like it's sold out and there's been a ton of people, but I have noticed that in those shows, you can't really focus on just one person. So it's a lot easier to kind of block everyone out,
which is why we got to sell out these shows.
Exactly.
Help us out, people. Pack this house.
And I'm going to say something cheesy right now. You can cut this part out. Okay. But when my partner is in the audience, I do feel a little bit better. Even if I don't know where he's sitting, like it does make me feel better to be like.
I thought you meant scene partner.
When my scene partner's in the audience. Yeah. When we're breaking
that's an old man. That's me being an old man. I understand your new hip terms for relationships.
My boyfriend. Okay, I just sound like I'm in high school.
You can say partner. That's totally fine. I was just I had improv brain. I was like, when your scene partner's out there and you're doing like one of those town hall scenes, that's you focus on that.
Yeah. But because that can go both ways for people too, is that if you have a romantic partner in the audience, that sometimes it can add pressure or self-consciousness, but for you, it takes it away. It makes you more comfortable.
Yeah, in the beginning it didn't, but it helped that he went through an improv program himself, and so he like knows that not every show is going to be a winner. He's also come to all my sketch shows that I've done in the past. So he knows that there's a difference, and he knows that the audience can be supportive and it can still be a not as great show. He knows that the people can be amazing and the audience is just not feeling it. And so like he understands that. So it makes me feel better that there's someone like on my side off stage. And I hope that everyone's on my side on stage, right? But that kind of goes with the ego thing or whatever. Like if I'm too much in my head, then I don't care about anyone else on stage either. So I'm not there for them, they're not there for me, like all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I don't know, especially because it's improv, it's hard for me to like get into a character. Like right away, I've established the character and I'm good. And then within like a couple minutes, I'm just like not that character anymore. And I'm realizing like other outside things or like thinking about my day or thinking about like just anything. And that doesn't happen so much anymore, but it still happens. And I get so mad at myself when it does. And then I'm mad at myself. And then it's like, how do I come back from that? So yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
on like having your partner in the audience?
No, just just completely forgetting the audience itself, or just expecting the audience to just be supportive and then just focusing on like the stage.
Ooh, that's a good one. Honestly, something I've been working on, and it's been very helpful, like playing with like just me and Peterson.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have to focus on him and not using just his words, but his physicality as gifts. So everything, like trying to play curious, I guess would be like the best explanation. Like what's happening now, rather than what do I think is going to happen. Like try to play like pure improv, like and trying to keep myself busy almost. Like, am I doing object work? Am I listening to him? Like just focus on my dude, and you don't have time to look at the audience then. Because I and I think a lot of students do this. I was like, we talked earlier about going from short form to long form. I had such a shitty habit of, if I think the line is going to hit, I say the line, give it a second. Then I had to look over, like, give me my reaction. Let the laughter reign over me because I earned that. I said that line that made you laugh, and that's just a shitty way to play. So not focusing on the funny, and that's a note for me, but just like focusing on your partner, focusing on what's going on, what is everything going on, and is there something that he did that maybe he doesn't even notice that can use as a gift and like bring to his attention so we can play with something that's pure like organic improv, or or is there something I can offer, just. And also I've been really thinking about what stage picture looks like, because when you're just two people up there, there's a lot of space. And if you do that thing where one person stands on, where's my camera at? One side and one person stands on the other, that's boring. Like you gotta keep it going. Our art's a visual art, and I don't think a lot of people pay enough attention to that. Your dialogue can only get you so far. You have to do you have to do the rest of the work. So yeah.
I like what you said about you focus on Chris and the audience kind of goes away. Because my thing was, how do I make sure the audience goes away before I get on stage so then I only focus on my scene partners?
Oh, yeah.
And like, that's what trips me up. So like the way you said it is so simple. Just focus on your scene partners and then you'll kind of just fade away the audience. Like they'll just become just nothing almost.
Yeah, sometimes
not nothing. We love the audience. Please come back.
Oh no, people aren't going to come anymore. It's going to be zero audience. Nobody's in the audience.
Oh no. Yeah. So go ahead, James.
I don't have a good answer for this either, because I've been in a place for a little while now where I'm unsure exactly what I want my relationship to be with the audience, because there's part of me that really wants the audience to be a player in the room and to be more conscious of the audience and more engaged with the audience. Then there's part of me that is always back to the roots of more conventional improv, which is to focus on your scene partner, forget the audience. And I guess the only thing I can really say is that like that seems to be a matter of how comfortable you are, or at least how comfortable I am with the people on stage, because if we're really comfortable with each other and we're both like we want to do well, and like this audience isn't really engaging, so maybe we like be a little more emphatic about, or really kick up the energy or something. Or if like Julia and I do a show and we like to do this bit where one of us sits in the audience and breaks the fourth wall or whatever. There's like she and I can fish around for things and know that we're doing that together and not separately. And if you're not as comfortable, then sometimes it feels like one person is trying to win the audience in spite of you, or with or without you. So it's you know what I mean? It's like as if I'm taking care of that first, at that point I'm like, okay, when like I still have this open-ended question for myself of like, how much do I want the audience to be involved, and figuring out like where is the line between where that's an issue of ego and where that's an issue or not an issue, and just more of like an open playground with the live theater experience.
Yeah. But I do like that move. I've seen you guys, and I've seen that move. I call it the guy with the cigar because that happens a lot. They said, "Let me see what you got, kid."
Yeah.
But I do like, in the first couple minutes of it, not first, like during your set, you'll get a vibe of what the house is, and if it's a playful house, I want to play with them because, you know, especially if we're doing like a festival or something, and you're like the third, you know, two-man that's been up in a row, like you got to do something different. So if involving them is that thing, cool. But I don't think that's the same thing as being distracted by them if you're making the choice to use them.
Yeah. And I guess I always go to active listening as the thing, you know, whether I'm not perfect at following my own advice, but it is about active listening, that if I'm really trying to like build comfort and trust with the people that I'm playing with, then I'm very much like wide eye focused on them and leaning in and over gesturing and just like that to me makes sure that I'm staying connected, and it makes my partner feel my connection to them, and that is very helpful to me if that's what my focus is like, let's make sure that I'm connected with these people, or you know, or if the audience is like hostile or just rowdy or drunk or whatever, then it is just like, so we're like, boy, we gotta finish cleaning the house, don't we? Like it's just over exaggerated.
It's really cool because once we learned to like play for ourselves, like in my specific troupe that we perform every now and then, seems like 8 years ago the last time we performed, but it was in March actually. But once we started learning to like play for each other and not the audience, that did really help us too, because we were just trying to make each other laugh. And we learned that from rehearsals because we would play a game, make Keenan laugh. And Keenan breaks all the time, you know, Keenan. And like, it was so fun playing that game. And then once we realized how much fun we can have, we would like do full sets, like 25 minutes of just playing Make Keenan Laugh, but like actually have character arches or arcs.
Either way, arcs,
either gotta have a full story or comfortable feet. We don't know.
And storylines and like when we had all of that too while we were playing this game, so that does help. But sometimes, like in front of an audience, I forget all of that because now there's another element to the play. So that's why, like, my question was like phrased the way it was, because like if you focus on the people first, then you kind of don't care about the audience. You can include them if you want. You don't have to. You can do whatever you want with them. They're just like a prop, kind of.
Totally.
So it's just like my mindset thinking, like, don't try to turn them off before you even get on stage, because then you're just thinking about, well, who is in the audience? Like, are these people going to like this? Like, and then you just get screwed.
Yeah, there's good advice out there too of just acknowledging that you're nervous or that you are like self-conscious or whatever, like as opposed to going into this place of like forget about it, you know, just pretend like this or this or this is instead of trying to fight it, just to be like, okay, I'm nervous, and that's okay. And then focusing on the scene partner first. I agree, Bob. That's really great advice. And probably going to work to people's benefit more than trying to trick yourself into thinking that the way that you're feeling isn't what it is, you know.
Another thing I like to do is create the environment, like actually make that fourth wall something physical, like the go-to fridge, like I can't tell you how many times I've went to the the fridge is here, the sink's here, like I know what the back wall of my old kitchen from the house I grew up in is. So like since it's such a almost a visceral memory, like it's hard to push that or poke a hole in that fourth wall.
Totally. Yeah. Well, this has been such a great conversation, and we're getting to the end of our time here. But Tiffany, before we wrap up, are there things going on for you in the virtual world that people can check out? Anything you want to plug?
I don't think it's going to be done by August, so no. So you can cut that part out.
Okay.
You think James does a lot more editing than he does. He's not cutting anything out.
Mark for cutting.
Well, is there something you're working on that might be out after August that you might want to plug that people can look out for?
Yeah.
So we are relaunching our podcast. My friend Shama and I are relaunching Chai Tea Party, which was a talking point at all of my improv auditions. And we are bringing it back. It's 2 South Asian American girls talking about not only what it's like to be that, but especially in this climate, but also other people who are doing things out of the norm. We're no longer like the model minority kind of things. Neither of us are doctors or lawyers, and we're still kind of figuring it out, which is like a stigma in itself. We talk about like mental health, relationships, like just kind of anything you can think of, because people have tried to silence us for so long. So there's that.
That sounds great.
So, yeah.
That's so cool.
I don't care when that's done. I want to hear about it now.
Yeah.
And look for it whenever.
Yeah, sometime in the future.
I'm going to be there. Yeah. Take your time. James will edit it. Be like, cut.
I actually, maybe he will. Maybe we'll hire you.
What?
Yeah.
I'm always open to it. Tiffany, though, so you said it's a returning podcast. It's something that you got quite a few number of episodes, like 40 or what? Am I wrong about that?
36, I think.
Okay.
Episodes we did.
Okay, great. Are those still available? Or are they?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And so people can go and if they haven't seen it yet and that sounds interesting, they can take a look at what you've done so far, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, they're all on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, like wherever you find podcasts. Chai Tea Party. And we're going to keep those episodes forever. We got rid of our Instagram, so we have to start over again. So I'll add my handle when, we like officially have it back and all that stuff. But chaiteapartyshow.com is our website. And that has archived everything as well. So if you just want to see what we've done, it's all on there. So
sweet. That's awesome. That sounds great.
So cool.
Thank you.
I'm excited.
Yeah. Okay, wonderful. Thank you again so much for joining, Tiffany. It's been a great conversation. You've been a wonderful guest. And
thank you guys so much. It's so good to see you guys. I'm sad that we can't all be in the same room, but
Yeah.
yes.
Regardless, it is very nice to see you, in the virtual you. And I'm glad that you're doing well. And we'll look forward to talking to you again sometime soon.
Awesome.
Thanks for joining. We'll catch you next time on Improv FAQ at length.